welcome back to my channel. So this is episode 2 of my Happy Mail Time series, and I wanted to come in and show you guys how I go about doing washi samples to include in Happy Mail. So I know that there are probably a bunch of different ways that you can do this, but one of the ways that I have seen around the internet and one of my favorite ways of making samples is actually by using a deck of cards. So as you can see, this is a brand new deck. I actually will periodically, basically once I run out, I will go and pick up a really cheap deck of cards from some local store that I can use to make washi samples, because obviously once I start making samples, I no longer have a full deck, so I can't actually use it to play. So I do keep separate decks of cards, like for playing card games and like for my students and stuff, that are not in my washi, so that I don't actually run into the problem of having missing cards. So this is actually the first time I'm buying this particular set, and I actually kind of like these cards like a lot. I like how big they are. So these are actually from Flying Tiger. Well, I think it was on the pack. So they were actually from Flying Tiger, which we just got that store in my town recently, and so I thought I would give them a try. And I think they were like €2, and that's pretty standard for what I've seen. It might be possible to get a deck of cards for like €1 somewhere, but I was like out of cards and I really needed a set. So in terms of doing the kind of cards that I like to do for washi samples, I currently use like a deck of playing cards, but I actually used to use like craft tags that I would just get from a craft store. And the reason why I stopped using these is because, one, these are more expensive. I think like 6 to 12 tags could run anywhere from like $2 to $4, maybe. I'm not even sure. €2 to €4. It's been a while since I actually purchased them, so I decided that I wanted to save them for actually doing tags on things and not use them for washi samples. The second reason is that because of the kind of paper, that last wrap of washi sticks, and so it is unusable. And so what I would do is I would actually have to wrap the tag with like masking or packing tape so that it would be protected, and so that whomever I was sending the washi samples to could actually use all of the washi tape on there. So I no longer use these in terms of cards. I have seen other people who do still use them. They're a very pretty way to do it, but I personally just felt it wasn't really worth the time and effort of me like wrapping them with packing tape in order to make them more manageable. So that was why I switched over to cards, playing cards specifically. And one of the things that I do look for, and these are not exactly the type I always get, so we're going to give it a shot, but I actually really like to look for the laminated cards. So I'm not sure if I have any that are still, darn. So I actually have used all of my cards. Let's see if I've got one in here I can show you. Okay, so for example, this is one that I've already covered, but if I run my nail along it, it's smooth, whereas these, I don't know if you can hear that, but it's got like a texture to it. So we're gonna give it a shot. I'm not sure how it's gonna work because, like I said, I usually do use these like laminated versions, but you know, we'll try it. So I just get a random pack of cards and I basically hold on to that deck, and I actually keep them with my washi tape and like my Happy Mail stuff so that I don't forget and try to like play a game of cards with them. So first, cards to wrap with. Second, I pull out all of my washi tape, and so basically we're going to just move anything that is a washi sample that people have sent me, goes off to the side. And this is not all of my washi tape, but it is a fair amount of it. Let's see. So the way that I like to do washi samples for pen pals is I kind of have two different things that I look at. So the first one is, and you're not going to see that in this video because I don't actually have something like ready to send to somebody, but the first thing that I look at is if I'm sending them something already, is there a color scheme in what I'm already sending them? So for example, if I've picked out stationery that has a lot of like blues, a lot of times I'll go through and I'll pick out washi tape that also has blue colors in there, or for example, whatever I end up using to decorate the envelope, a lot of times is going to be mirrored in what is on the washi sample card that I send them. So sometimes I start with what am I actually sending them, and then I work back and I create a washi sample that goes with it. Sometimes I start with the washi and then I work forward. So that's what we're going to do here. So we're going to imagine I have some pen pals that I need to answer to, so somebody is going to get this card. I'm just not sure who yet. So what I like to do is, in addition to kind of having it go with whatever I'm sending, I also like to pick washi tape that goes together. Now, that's not to say that it's all matchy-matchy, but I like things that could be used together, so that, for example, I sometimes have pen pals that maybe are not as big into washi tape. So I really want to send them washi tape because it's pretty and it can be fun to use, but I also know that they don't have like a box of washi tape at home that they can then supplement with whatever I'm sending to create certain looks. So I like to try and give them a card that could be used as a standalone. It's got different like solids and patterns, and it's going to have things that are all in like kind of a same like color scheme or a same style, so that in theory they could use all of the tape together to create a spread if they wanted to. So if they don't have any other washi tape, not a big deal. So what we're going to take a look at is, I like to do a mix also of different sizes. And let's see, what do we want to do? I think, let me move my scissors actually. So I think we're gonna do a grid, and I want to do this like kind of green. I want to do like a muted sort of look. So we're going to do a green grid. Ooh, and I think we're going to do, I think we might do the birds. Yeah. So what I like to do is also I like to do different sizes. So I think I'm going to do, because these bird eggs are a little bit wider, whoops, oh, dropping stuff. It actually goes like that. So I've got bird eggs and I've got a grid. And then I like to do something, let's see, I think this blue looks nice. And so the other thing that is really important is how much room do you have on your card? So I measure kind of having everything together, but I know I'm going to have some spaces. So I can usually fit about 5, sometimes 6 if I have a couple of thinner ones, but usually it's about 4 to 5 different washi tape on one card. So let's see, what else do we have? I think we're gonna do a floral. Oops, I'm dropping things again. And let's see, will this fit? That is going to be close, but I think we can do it. Okay, so basically I have a pattern with words, a grid, so kind of geometric, flowers. This is kind of like a plain, it actually does, once I start wrapping, you'll see it actually does have writing on it, but it's kind of like a plain solid, and then another pattern with like a lighter background. So in theory, the person who receives this could say, okay, I want to do, for example, the birds and the flowers and the scissors together, or I'm going to do flowers and the grid, or I'm going to do the blue grid and the eggshell together. So like they're not like identical, and they don't necessarily all go together all the time, but they're in the same color family, so that somebody could conceivably put together spreads using just these 5 washi tape that I'm going to send them. So that is how I actually choose washi. And again, this is one where I've decided I'm going to pick a color scheme and move out. So whoever I end up sending this to, usually these are then going to be the washi tape that I use to decorate the envelope, which I will show you in a future video. And it's also going to be, when I pick the card that I'm going to write on, I'm going to look for something in like a blue or a green so that it kind of goes with it as well. So the next step then is actually wrapping the washi tape. So let me move some stuff apart over to the side so I have some room. So let's pull. All right, this is always the Tetris box of washi. It just, trying to get everything to fit back in here is sometimes a challenge, but we're gonna make it work. There we go. So here, oops, there you go. And you'll see that, for example, I pulled out this like MT washi because I was thinking, oh, maybe I'll use that for something. And sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I pull out lots of options and then I figure out what I'm gonna do from there. So, oops, we just need one card. And I'm actually, okay, I'm also really weird. I will sometimes also pick the card color based on what I'm sending. I know, guys, don't judge me. It's fine. Well, you can judge me if you want to, but this is how I do it. So, for example, I think that I'm going to pick a black, and I want to do ace, just because. So, for example, if I had brighter colors, I probably would have used one of the red cards. If I send multiple samples that I'm like pre-making, I will sometimes pick either things in a line or whatever. I know I'm kind of weird about it, but that's the way my brain works. So I now have my card and I've got my samples. So the way that I like to do this is I like to have them in the order that I'm actually going to put them on the card. So I tend to do where I have the widest on the bottom, followed by any like solid kind of things, and the thinnest on the top. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to do them like this. Okay. So somehow in my brain it makes sense, like the widest ones followed by solid colors or geometrics, followed by like other shapes, followed by ones that could be used conceivably as stickers, followed by the thinnest one. Like, it's not a perfect science, but like this is kind of the way that I like to set them up. So I don't just like throw them onto the card haphazardly. I like to know what order I'm going to put them in before I start wrapping. So then when I actually wrap, and I'm going to pull out, I actually like these scissors because these ones are great for like precision cutting, but sometimes the blades are just a little bit too short for what I want to do right now. And also the bigger scissors are kind of faster. So we're going to start at the bottom and work our way up. So you'll notice that a lot of times when I use washi tape, and I'm just gonna, and what I do is I actually will stack them upside down so that I can kind of go from there. So when I do these, a lot of times I just rip them, but when I'm doing a sample, I do try and cut a clean edge. I don't know that anybody necessarily cares, but I think it looks nicer. So I start with the card on the table, and then I go kind of down to the bottom, and I try and stop before I hit the part where the card curves down, so that all of the, like, so that the entire tape is like solidly on the card. So I start usually with whatever direction it's going. So sometimes on a card I'll have things going in different directions, just depending. If I can do it all the same way, I will, because then it's kind of easier to get to, but it's not a big deal. So I will get my card on here like this, and then pull out some. I'm not going to pull, I usually do a little bit longer, but because I'm trying to do this in like on film for you guys, I'm going to keep it a little bit shorter. So what I do is I hold the card with like whatever is the most side over on this like opposite hand, and then wherever most of the tape is, I use the closer hand and I control the wrap. So I like to lay it down and then flatten it out, and then keep going like this so that everything stays like really nice. Now, when I first started doing this, it took me forever to wrap cards, and I actually will like have my hand on the tape just to make sure I have a nice like controlled wrap, but it looks so much nicer. And I do anywhere from like 7 to like 11 wraps depending on what it is. Or for example, if it's something that has a repeating pattern like this, I'll do like 2 full sets of the pattern or 3 full sets of the pattern, or like whatever it is. So I think I'm on like 3 or 4, we'll see. So I'm just gonna wrap a couple on here until it seems right. Whoops. There. So this way I have a really nice band, and we're gonna call that good. Oops. Okay, so I don't know what that was, 5 or 6 wraps, we'll see. And then I make sure I have enough so that I have an end on the front here. And that's the first wrap. So I repeat for the next one. Oh dear, come on. So cut off the edge, move that to the side, and then I just skip a little bit so it doesn't overwrap, or so it doesn't like, it's not going to touch the first one I wrapped, but I also like to check as I'm going to make sure that I'm actually going to have enough space. So it's going to be a little close, but I think we can make it work. So once again, I hold and I guide the tape and flatten, oops, like so. So this is one of those things that I really like doing this, like, you know, when I'm doing Happy Mail, a lot of times I'll put on music or something like that, or like if I'm watching a TV show, and then I'll try and wrap a couple of cards all at once, because you kind of get into a rhythm with it, and it just, it's actually kind of like meditative to wrap cards with washi tape. I don't know, maybe that's just me. There. Okay, and I just keep going. So while I'm wrapping this, I wanted to also mention, there was somebody who had asked on the first video if I have like sort of expectations that I set up, or like a cap on like the price for things that I'm going to send, like how exactly do I navigate that with my pen pals? So it depends on the person. If it's somebody that I'm sending them something, like, for example, I've had pen pals where I send like a print. There isn't really like a there isn't a cap on how much I'm going to spend, but a lot of times, like, the reality is I have a ton of stationery stuff, so it's fairly rare that I go out and buy something specifically for a pen pal unless it's like, you know, a Secret Santa kind of thing. So what I tend to do is I like to go through any of the stationery that I've already got and see what I can include. And for the most part, for example, for like a standard pen pal, so somebody that we send fairly frequently, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll write a note, and then I'll include, you know, 1 or 2 cards with washi samples. I'll include a couple of like stickers. I might include like another card that's blank, like a card in an envelope, for example, that they can actually write on and send to one of their pen pals. And like, that's about it. So you'll notice here, this one actually, it's hard to tell, but there's actually writing on here, so that's why this goes this way, and so I'm switching the direction. And I also am now controlling with my other hand because I'm going the different way. So that is, I can't say what my like cost limit is, because most of the time I'm able to basically shop my stationery from home because I send stuff in envelopes, so I'm not sending like big boxes of stuff. Now, that's not to say that that's always the case. I do have some pen pals where, you know, if we've been exchanging letters for a while and I'm out at a stationery store and I see something that I think would be perfect for them and it's not too expensive, I will pick that up. But it's also something that if you're worried about that, you could ask. I never have actually. I know that there are people who do like exchanges and swaps and that kind of stuff where there is a limit of, you know, $10 or $5 or something like that. But when it comes to actual pen pals, I either will send what I can from home, and I also will kind of keep, I'll kind of see what they also send back. So depending on who starts, I feel like that kind of sets the tone. So for example, if I'm the person who starts and I send certain things, then I feel like, you know, the response is going to be something in that vein. That's not always the case, and I have some pen pals that, like, we send different things, so it's not really a comparable, like, you couldn't really compare it, for example. So, like, I have one friend who's really into tea, so she always sends me tea, but she doesn't have as much stationery stuff, whereas I don't have as much tea, but I do have a lot of stationery stuff. So I send her stationery stuff, and she sends me tea. So, you know, it's one of those things where, like, there isn't, like, a cost limit. Is just like what we have around the house, what we're willing to send, and all that kind of stuff. And I feel like for the most part, my pen pals and I, like, it's not a conversation that we ever have, but we kind of just send what we're able, if that makes sense. So yeah. But if you are going to be doing, you know, if you are going to find a pen pal from a site, it might be worth like kind of poking around and seeing if there is sort of an accepted norm. Like, you know, if you only are going to send like $5 worth of stuff or something like that, that might be something that's worth looking into. But in terms of like a day-to-day like pen pal relationship, I feel like send what you can. If you have stuff that you'd like to send what you'd like to send if you think they would like it. But I wouldn't necessarily go out and buy things specifically for your pen pals. Every once in a while, I'll do that. Like if a holiday's coming up and I'm like, oh, I don't really have any, like, I don't know, Halloween stickers. I'm going to go pick up some Halloween stickers so that I can send them to pen pals. That's one thing. But like that, if you do that every single time, that's just going to be cost prohibitive. So I feel like a better like way to gauge is what do you have around the house, what are things that you can send, and try and start from there. And if you're noticing that like your pen pals are sending you a ton of stuff back and you don't have as much to send to them, then maybe you want to have that conversation of like, hey, like, would you mind if we send like fewer things? Or like, oh, like, I'm sorry, I'm not able to send as much stuff, I just don't have as much stationery stuff. But I feel like most of the time the people who do this are like happy to get whatever people are willing to send them, and they send the things that they are willing to send. So I don't know. I feel like it's pretty like benevolent situation. So if you guys have any advice for people on like how do you kind of decide what you send, how much you send, the cost, like the cost of what you send, drop it down in the comments. Let us know. As for washi samples, this is my finished sample. So you'll notice that I do have a little bit of space. So now that I am all in camera, you can see that this is the finished sample. Everything like looks kind of nice and neat. The one thing that you have to be careful about is don't pull the washi tape too tight. You want it to be like tight enough so that you don't have bubbles. So you can kind of see here, this is like flat. So you want it to be tight enough so that you don't have bubbles, but you don't want it to be so tight that it actually bends the card, because then the washi tape will kind of like do funky things on you. But yeah, this is the way that I like to wrap washi samples. This is also the way that I like choose washi tape to send to people. And yeah, if you guys have any comments or questions, let me know. Let me know if you have any other like wrapping tricks. I know that there are machines to actually wrap, and they have like more like smaller spool style washi samples. But the one thing I really like about the cards is that it keeps a really slim profile. So if you're sending it in an envelope, it doesn't like bulk it up too much, and you can send a couple of different patterns without having to worry about it becoming like blobby or like kind of weird. So that is all I have for you guys for today. I will see you guys in my next video, and have a great day. Bye.